We all know about America's ceaseless propaganda against Iran and how America and the West's propaganda media claims that Iran is supposedly a bad place for human rights. This from Western countries that violated the human rights of Afghans, Iraqis, Somalians, and others. The hypocrisy is unreal. Well, Iran is also calling out America's hypocrisy regarding its abuses of black people's and peoples of color's human and civil rights. Let's get into the article. From Iran, killing of black teacher, an example of U.S. hypocrisy concerning human rights. So the black teacher they're talking about made news a few days ago. His name was Keenan Anderson, and Keenan Anderson was killed by police officers who tased him. And he was, some of his last words were, "They're trying to George Floyd me, they're trying to George Floyd me." Um, Ominous last words from Keenan Anderson. He's unfortunately passed, I believe it's due to the tasing, but the autopsies I don't think are out yet because it's so recent. So, Iran killing of black teacher, an example of U.S. hypocrisy concerning human rights. Iran says the U.S. police's recent brutal murder of an African American teacher reflects Washington's hypocritical approach towards the issue of human rights, which he's right. Speaking to Press TV on Wednesday, Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kan'ani said such instances of violent behavior against citizens, especially the people of color, were happening frequently across the United States, describing the unwelcome development as totally inhumane and hideous. Absolutely right, his characterization of America's treatment of people of color. You can hate on him, but you can't hate on what he's saying. That's a clear sign of a contradiction between actions and words, he added, referring to how the U.S. would host such incidents on a recurrent basis, at the same time as it seizes on every opportunity to preach to the rest of the international community on the subject of human rights. He's absolutely right. The United States violates the rights of people of color domestically, and it violates the rights of people internationally, the Afghans, Somalians, Iraqis, Palestinians, Yemenis, and so on, while preaching to the rest of the world about human rights. It's hypocrisy at its finest. The U.S. cashes in on minor incidents around the world, especially in the countries that are under Washington's political pressure, the spokesman noted, stating Washington uses a human rights issue as a tool to pursue its political interests and goals and to exert pressure on independent nations. Yeah, he's absolutely right. And the U.S. has done this around the world, in Africa, in Iran, in Russia, in China. He's absolutely right. They use it to further their own interests. They don't give a damn about human rights. Just look at their own records. According to reports, the American school teacher was repeatedly tasered by Los Angeles. Again, the school teacher is Keenan Anderson. Was repeatedly tasered by Los Angeles police officers and heavy-handedly restrained following a traffic incident earlier in January. In a 13-minute body cam footage released by the Los Angeles Police Department, Anderson was seen begging for help as multiple officers were holding him to the ground and one officer was pressing his elbow along with his body weight onto his neck. "They're trying to George Floyd me, they're trying to George Floyd me," Anderson could be heard saying in the footage, in reference to the U.S. police's killing of George Floyd in May 2020 in Minneapolis, in an incident that triggered racial justice protests around the world. Kan'ani had also reacted to the recent grisly murder in a tweet earlier, reminding that the incident had coincided with a day that marks the birth of Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the legendary American civil rights leader, who dedicated his life to the realization of equal treatment for the United States' African American community. The murder, the spokesman had tweeted, indicated that despite the passage of 5 decades following Luther King's murder, his dreams of the black Americans' equal entitlement to civil rights has not been realized. Absolutely true, all of which are true. Again, you can be angry, you can be upset that he's saying this, but you cannot be upset at him speaking the truth. And a lot of Americans will deny that, this is even true. They'll deny that, black people and people of color, but especially black people, are being slaughtered in the streets. They'll deny that America has a human rights violations and abuses issue, both domestically and internationally. They'll deny all of that. Just look at Iraq. They denied that Saddam didn't have weapons of mass destruction and believed that he actually did. And when it was found out that he didn't, they still went along with the lie. And so Americans are often in denial, just like they're in denial of their futures in America and how it's declining. Nevertheless, let me know if you're on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, leave a like. Let me know what you think about this story. If you're listening to this on the podcast, tweet me. Let me know what you think about this story there. Take care.